So we had this news yesterday about Grange Math. What was your initial reaction?
A real mixture, to be honest with you, Ali. Fury, disappointment, anger, a feeling of incredulence as well, and utter disappointment that the party, we had the Scottish Labour leader stand on a televised debate last year in the general election campaign and said that we were going to step in and save the jobs at the refinery. Now, there's no getting away from it. That's a broken promise. And from the Labour Party, that's not good enough.
Do you think that the Labour Party cares as much about Scotland as it does about other parts of the country? Obviously, we saw jobs in Scunthorpe being saved.
I think that's a very legitimate question to ask. Let me just say from the outset, and speaking with Grangemouth refinery workers as well, as they were delighted, as was I, that Scunthorpe was saved, because that is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to provide a just transition for workers, their communities, and also our steel production as a nation. There's striking similarities between Scunthorpe and Grangemouth has been let down at not getting the same treatment.
How important is Grange Math for Scotland?
Vital, essential. It's an absolutely crucial piece of infrastructure. When we look at it as well, it's not just the 435 jobs that will be lost on site. It's 2,822 in the wider supply chain, but we're also talking about an energy secure nation. We are an energy abundant nation, and now we're going to rely on imports of oil. That is a ridiculous notion when we look at the global volatility that we have.
We've obviously got the Holyrood elections coming up next year. What sort of position do you think the government has put your party in Scotland?
I think that we are facing an electoral disaster. When we look at the landscape of politics in Scotland, the Labour Party has craved the industrial heartlands of the Central Belt for, fair to say, 15, 20 years. We win that back last year, and we're on the front foot. We've got a huge majority, and it really should be an opportunity to really create a compassionate and caring society that looks after people. And we're not doing that in our first 10 months. And of course, with Holyrood looming in May next year, it'll be very interesting to see what happens at the ballot box.
What do you think will happen?
I think that the polls are probably accurate, and we see us being probably retaining our position as third largest party, or even possibly fourth. And then when we look at an SNP government that is limping on after nearly 2 decades, where every public service and everything that we rely on as a country is in a worse condition, it is incredible that we are not basically putting forward a credible case of showing that we can govern Scotland differently.
You sound really angry. Would you think about leaving the party?
Absolutely not. I'm a proud Labour Party member, and I have been for a long time, and it is an incredible honour to be the Labour MP for Alloa and Grangemouth. And the only way, in my opinion, that the party can get into the position where I want it to be is from within. Now, one member, one MP, but I've got to try and do my bit to try and shape the party into what I want it to be from within.
What will you do if people at the top of the party aren't listening?
I think we just have to keep on the pressure from within. When I go to things like, say, for example, the STEC Congress in Dundee on Monday, I speak to people in the trade union movement there as well. They're incredibly disappointed and they're angry. When I attend CLP meetings, and I'm lucky I've got 2 fantastic CLPs in my constituency who are right behind the stance that I've taken in many, many things. The grassroots Labour members, they want to reject austerity. They want to build that caring and compassionate society.
It's interesting that you definitely sounds like you would not consider leaving the party. Do you think it's going to be quite a hard message to sell on the doorstep?
I think, we just need to look at the last 10 months in government, or our first 10 months in government, and we're not doing well enough. We must do better. What we've got to do is we are not unique in this country in that we face a populist far-right message in Reform UK. We can see that all across the continent. We can see something similar, that populism, right across the globe. Now, the way that we defeat that is not by embracing their ideology. What we've got to do is we've got to try and create and redistribute wealth across society and make the country a much more equal place. There are solutions out there, and that is basically showing that we can be different. And that means sometimes as well sticking our flag in the sand and saying that we will govern differently than what you've had for 14 years. We've seen 14 years worth of austerity that has made this country an incredibly unequal place. We've got to govern differently.
Was it hard for you to kind of come out and speak so strongly on this? In a sense, going against the party?
Absolutely not, because, it's the right thing to do. I've been steadfast as a campaigner on this, as a candidate, and since I got to Parliament. I'm here to represent the people of Alloa and Grangemouth. and whether they voted for me or not. I've got to be their voice down here in Westminster and outside of Parliament on shows like this as well, and put their viewpoint across. I don't find it difficult.
And what would you do if nothing changes?
Got to keep on going, got to campaign from within, got to try and shape the party into what I think it should be. And I'm not a lone voice in that. As I said, party members, grassroots members at Scottish Conference, this is what they were telling me. At the STEC, this is what they were telling me. So there is an opinion within the party that this is not good enough.
Do you think there's a strength of feeling in the parliamentary party?
I think that will be tested when we look at the welfare reforms that are coming. I've been very vocal, and straight away I said I'm not a Labour Party member, and I didn't become a Labour Party councillor or a Labour Party MP to impoverish people, especially the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people in the country. And I strongly expect that there will be many colleagues in the same position as me.
Are you talking there about the winter fuel allowance?
I'm talking about a whole raft of issues that we've seen in our first 10 months, things that we have called wrong.
Would you like to see your colleagues being braver, in a sense, like you are, and speaking more publicly?
I'm not going to comment on colleagues. You know, they all have their own constituencies, their own campaigns, and their own fights that they've got to manage. I can only speak for myself, and I certainly know that what I want to do and what I want the party to be, and I'm going to continue on the path that I'm on.
And can I ask you, if you don't mind, about Tony Blair's comments? I don't know if you saw them. He's sort of suggesting that the party shouldn't be pushing ahead with net zero in the way it is. What's your view on that?
Well, what I would say about net zero is it's a noble cause, and undoubtedly a reliance on fossil fuels is something that we need to address. We've admitted as a government that oil and gas will be part of the energy mix for decades to come, and that makes sense. What we've really got to do is we've got to do better than what we've done at Grangemouth, and that is offer a just transition for workers, for communities, and basically make sure that no worker or community is left behind. We've seen what deindustrialisation does to this country. We're still paying the price of the mines closing, and not just the economic price, but the social consequences involved. We've got to do better and make sure that we actually provide what is really a proper and just transition.
And you think the people of Scotland, basically have been let down?
Undoubtedly. Absolutely. Because I certainly see how important the Grangemouth oil refinery is, not just to the community, it's for the whole of the country. The primary role of any government is to keep its citizens safe. Now, we've been an oil refining nation for 100 years. We're going to have to rely on importing and then redistributing our oil once it's here. Why are we not in charge of our own energy destiny? And I would say as well, something that I think is a relevant part of that conversation as well, is the energy industries of the future. I've asked in Parliament, what form of government ownership will there be? Now, not just Labour Party members believe that nationalisation of key vital pieces of infrastructure is actually a good thing. It's a popular policy. The government should be thinking about doing that.
Why do you think, as you put it earlier, the government cares more about England than Scotland?
I have no idea for that. Now, that will be something that the party can refute, but when we look at the hard fact as well, as I say, to reiterate, what happened at Scunthorpe, that was good, that was correct. The exact same should be happening at Grangemouth.